I'm a big believer in data-driven decisions, and you've got to be able to take your data to make a good decision, whether it's for a limited time offer, for menu items, menu engineering, pricing. All those components are critical, and you've got to have a great data system to be able to look at that and say, all right, this appears to be the right decision versus the swag way of making the decision, right? We're sophisticated, wild ass guess, and you don't want to do that.
All right, guys, welcome back to Close Monday, the show for restaurant entrepreneurs and franchisees navigating growth and real estate using operational strategy and, of course, some insights from professionals who have done it before. I'm your host, Kyle and Sarah, and today's guest is somebody who really should be on your Mount Rushmore of restaurant franchising, in my opinion, Scott Redler. He is the co-founder of Freddy's Frozen Custard and Steakburgers, growing it from one location to over 450 units and a 9-figure exit. And now he's building his next chapter with Mokas Coffee, a drive-through concept built for modern franchising, but with an old-school focus on execution. From menu simplicity to site selection discipline, Scott is proving you can scale again without reinventing the wheel. All right, guys, I'll take a minute here before we start the show for two quick things. One is thank you. I don't say it enough, and it is truly an honor to put this show on and know that you guys are learning from what we talk about here. I know that we haven't had on some guests in a while. That's really just a scheduling thing with the summer, but I've tried to provide a ton of value over this summer, and you guys have let me know that it has been helping you. So I appreciate you reaching out and letting me know. It is an absolute honor to hear that you guys trust me enough with those decisions and you feel comfortable enough to reach out and ask those questions. It's, being in front of a microphone and in front of a camera is not something I ever envisioned I would be doing as a restaurant operator or a commercial real estate broker, but I'm super grateful for the support that we've received. And the second thing is we want to improve this show, and that requires feedback. And I would love it if you could leave us a review. Now, it does push out our show even more so. The algorithm loves that. It'll push our show out to more people. And that's partly why I want you to do it, and being honest. But the second reason, and probably the more important reason, is I want the show to be better. I want to bring you the ultimate value, and I want to be able to provide that value to you in a way that I am listening to your feedback and acting on it. So if you want to leave me a 1-star review, go ahead. I'm a big boy. I can take it. You need that criticism to grow. So please let me know what you think of the show. If it's a 5-star review, obviously would love that too. But whatever you genuinely think, whatever you genuinely feel you want from this show, I am making it my mission to provide that to you. Be a place where you can go for trusted information and reach out and support as it pertains to real estate, site selection, or anything related to your growth. So I'll quit talking and let's get started with the show. Thank you. Create a safer, more efficient kitchen and better protect your bottom line with Restaurant Technologies. Its total oil management solution helps minimize the dangers that come with traditional oil management, such as oil burns, spills, and slip and fall accidents. The end-to-end automated oil management system delivers, filters, monitors, and recycles your cooking oil, taking one of the dirtiest jobs out of the kitchen. And there's no upfront cost. Control the kitchen chaos with Restaurant Technologies and make your kitchen safer while maximizing efficiency. And again, no upfront cost. Control the chaos with Restaurant Technologies and make your kitchen safer while maximizing efficiency. Visit rt-inc.com or email customer care at rt-inc.com or call 888-796-4997 to get started. All right, guys, I'll take a minute here before we start the show for two quick things. One is thank you. I don't say it enough, and it is truly an honor to put this show on and know that you guys are learning from what we talk about here. I know that we haven't had on some guests in a while. That's really just a scheduling thing with the summer, but I've tried to provide a ton of value over this summer, and you guys have let me know that it has been helping you. So I appreciate you reaching out and letting me know. It is an absolute honor to hear that you guys trust me enough with those decisions and you feel comfortable enough to reach out and ask those questions. It's, being in front of a microphone and in front of a camera is not something I ever envisioned I would be doing as a restaurant operator or a commercial real estate broker, but I'm super grateful for the support that we've received. And the second thing is we want to improve this show, and that requires feedback. And I would love it if you could leave us a review. Now, it does push out our show even more so. The algorithm loves that. It'll push our show out to more people. And that's partly why I want you to do it, and being honest. But the second reason, and probably the more important reason, is I want the show to be better. I want to bring you the ultimate value, and I want to be able to provide that value to you in a way that I am listening to your feedback and acting on it. So if you want to leave me a 1-star review, go ahead. I'm a big boy. I can take it. You know, you need that criticism to grow. So please let me know what you think of the show. If it's a 5-star review, obviously would love that too. But whatever you genuinely think, whatever you genuinely feel you want from this show, I am making it my mission to provide that to you. Be a place where you know you can go for trusted information and reach out and support as it pertains to real estate site selection or anything related to your growth. So I'll quit talking and let's get started with the show. Thank you. How's that sound?
I love it.
Great. Well, thank you for joining me today. I appreciate it. We were touching base earlier and you were saying you're away. So I really appreciate you making the time while you have the beach in front of you.
Well, you were commenting on, don't want to take away from my vacation, but when it's a 4-month vacation, you're okay taking away an hour.
Yeah, and you know what? That part you left out. So now you're right. I don't feel that bad anymore. So let's just kind of get into it. I mean, obviously we got to talk about the Freddy stuff, and you know, such a powerhouse. I'm a big fan of the brand, and actually what stands out to me most on a personal level is when I was at ICSC, the people surrounded that brand who were talking to everybody on that floor, which can get kind of hectic. Most people would have retired after that, but you decided to jump back in with Moka. Tell me a little bit about that idea.
Well, how do you go from working? So I just hit my 50th anniversary in the hospitality industry, which I would be remiss if I didn't say, I believe this is the industry of opportunity for so many. I am one of those, and I can tell you dozens of stories of people that have started with nothing and been successful with some common sense, some good decisions, hard work, passion, and really love of taking care of other people. It's and whether they're a guest or a teammate, a team member, it's a great thing to be able to do.
And it's tough to kind of just one day step aside from that, right? I mean, you can't just, the brain takes a little while longer to slow down.
You know, it absolutely does. It's like, how do you go from doing that to basically nothing? I sit on some boards and profit and nonprofit, put a lot of time into nonprofit now, but it's enjoyable to watch and help others succeed in our industry. And there's people that are just starting out. There's people that are about to get started, people that have been doing it a long time. And I'm able to help them take a little different perspective on what they do and why they do it.
Yeah. And what year was it that Freddy's opened their first location?
2002.
Wow. So that was a wild ride.
It was a crazy ride. And, you know, we never had the intention of opening a second location. Nobody believes that now, of course. We opened it because Bill and Randy and I all wanted frozen custard and Steakburgers. And, you know, I've been involved in every segment of the industry except for drive-through at the time. And I didn't quite understand. I mean, I'm a full service restaurant guy with hospitality and food. And I didn't understand how you order at a window or from a speaker. And 5 minutes later, we're giving somebody a fresh hot meal. And it scared me so much that the first day of Freddy's, I put my car in the driveway, drive-through in reverse, and put a sign on the back window that said drive-through opens tomorrow. But the funny thing is, I did that for 2 weeks. It's the free beer tomorrow thing, right?
Yeah.
But eventually we got it. We believe, you know, we all know that you should have a certain number of burgers and fries in your life. But when you want them, you want the burgers hot and fresh, and you want the fries crispy and hot. And that's Freddy's.
Wow. So it was really like, what was the impetus to say, hey, we're not opening a segment? Was there anything you can remember saying like, okay, yeah, let's do it. You're right.
Why do we do it? So when you live in Wichita, Kansas, and you live East Wichita and your restaurant is 18 minutes away, we had friends that came in and said, hey, are you going to move? And like, no, but a location became available east, 5 minutes from all of our houses. And it worked out great.
That's great.
And it's actually a phenomenal location without a drive-through and still does great. And still 5 minutes from our houses.
That's awesome. So now that you've seen this movie before, you've seen how this starts to play out, what makes Moka the right concept right now?
Well, Moka's is coffee and eatery. Mokas Coffee and Eatery. It's important. There's a lot of coffee brands out there expanding that are focused on great quality beverages. By the way, over half the beverages now are cold, and energy drinks and refreshers, as we call them. So that's kind of interesting to watch that segment. But always a big believer that it's the food.
Mm-hmm.
The line I use called "It's the food, stupid." I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah,
food's got to be great, right?
right.
And Mocha's, we put a lot of energy into doing things the right way. You go and have a Reuben, a refresher drink, you're going to be a happy person. Or
Yeah,
breakfast, amazing breakfast.
yeah. Now, what have you? Obviously you have Freddy's in your DNA. What was different about the first Mocha unit compared to that first Freddy's unit?
Well, the first Mocha's unit, this is really Jason Ingermanson, who is a rock star in our industry. Jason, it was his first thing was coffee, and he grew it. And Jason understands hospitality, quality, doing things, in Freddy's, we call it the Freddy's way, doing things the right way long-term,
Mm-hmm.
making good long-term decisions for your teammates, for the facility. And just as important, the food and hospitality have to be just top-notch. And Jason gets it. So that's why I got involved. There's no other, if the culture would not have been right, I would not have been a player in this arena.
So he came to you with the idea before you had the location.
Well, he started the company and he had 4 locations at the time, or 3.
Okay.
And I said, "Hey, would you help me out? You're done with Freddy's. Why don't you give me a couple-year commitment," which I did. And I just shifted to a board role only now and will still stay involved. And it just worked out great. It was something to have some fun with. The basics and things that he did were great. Putting in the processes that you need to franchise, changing a few of the recipes, some technology, moving the concept forward a little bit. Not that it wasn't great, just moving it a little forward.
Now, that model, your model at Mocha's here is intentionally lean, it feels like. And I think that's been mentioned before. Small footprint, limited menu, kind of like a focused service. Is that because now you're building with scale in mind? Is that part of the plan, or is there something else there that drives it economically or something else?
Well, you know what? When you're a franchisor, you have to be the best investment for your franchisee, the best ROI. That's what they're doing it for. No one is opening up any concept just for fun.
Right.
You're trying to make a profit.
Yeah.
And you have a choice where you can invest your money. And we believe we've taken Mocha's to a point that it gives you hopefully gives you a good return on investment, and you operate the correct way. The passion that's important for the brand. It's so critical to have the right people as franchisees. And we're lucky with our first franchisee, Christian Coleman, is a wonderful individual who is passionate, excited about the brand, and really gets the culture side of our industry.
Yeah. Now, I guess the Freddy's model, drive-through, very similar type of idea, keep it simple, focus on the quality. But are there any kind of traps in that whole process that you have obviously either experienced or know might be coming that you can help anybody who's kind of in the space of maybe they're a franchisee, maybe they're a franchisor who are looking at kind of building this leaner model? What were some, maybe those sort of like traps or hiccups that you can share with us?
Well, I think one of the most critical things in our industry today is transparency. And as a franchisor, we believed err on the side of the franchisee, make decisions that help them win. And when your franchisees win, they build more locations and everyone wins. There's a term we use called the double win. There's a book a long time ago that I read from Dr. Dennis Waitley that's called The Double Win, not in print anymore, but I should get commission for everybody who's bought the book since.
Yeah, we'll put a link in the show notes here for you.
There we go. And you have to buy it on eBay. You can't even get it on Amazon.
Oh, really? Wow.
It's out of print. Really getting into the attitude that when you focus on helping others win, you're going to win bigger than you ever imagined. And a lot of people don't quite understand that. It's our purchasing program. When we made a decision, there was no back end dollars on anything in Mocha's and in Freddy's when I was there. Because when you make a decision, you want your franchisees to understand that you're making the decision solely for their benefit.
Yeah.
You're not making it because you're making money on the back end on equipment or food or any technology. And we felt that was the way to go with Mocha's, and that's what we're doing. We are here to make our franchisees win, for them to be successful, and to work hard to help them get the best return on investment that they can.
Yeah. Because a lot of those whether it's a tech provider or a equipment company, that's what they want to do, right? They want to incentivize you to take the product somehow, or it's going to benefit the franchisor.
Well, I remember, Cal, a friend of mine was looking at a different franchise, and he gave me his FDD franchise disclosure document, and I knew right where to turn. And that company had made $1 million on back end dollars on food. Well, that's great. And that can be their business model if you desire. But I've always been a believer that you should keep everything transparent. And if 4.5% isn't enough for you to make money as a franchisor, charge 5,
Yeah.
but keep it transparent.
Yeah. It's because it's going to show up eventually, right?
Well,
And if it's,
you don't want to have to worry about what's happening behind the scenes when you're running a business. It's complicated enough to win, to pick a location and management team and all the components that make a restaurant win. It's hard enough to do that. Why add that other element to it?
And then you're kind of
I think it
handcuffed
makes
to that
sense.
deal.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. Not everybody agrees with that, of course.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think your way is more authentic. It's more transparent. It's more genuine. Like, hey, we're buying this because we think it's the best product. We're not buying it for any other reason. Because then you're in this sort of weird relationship where you're almost working for the supplier or the provider, or whatever it is. And that's not why you got in the business, I would imagine.
Nope. With Mokas, we're in coffee, soup, salad, sandwich business.
Yep.
And refreshers. And let's focus on that. Let's do what we do and do it well.
Yeah, that's right. And in that, there are systems that have to be put in place. Most brands tend to wait till there's a problem to then put in a system like, hey, this isn't working. We got to put a system around it. What is something that you could say that most brands typically wait too long to build from a system perspective?
I'm a big believer in data-driven decisions, and you've got to be able to take your data to make a good decision, whether it's for a limited time offer, for menu items, menu engineering, pricing. All those components are critical. And you've got to have a great data system to be able to look at that and say, all right, this appears to be the right decision versus the swag way of making the decision, right? We're sophisticated, wild ass guess. And you don't want to do that. You want to be able to take your data and say, all right, this is our number one seller. Let's make sure we're doing it right, executing it right. Are we doing it the Mokas way, the right way?
Yeah. I mean, there's certainly enough data points, certainly plenty of data points now to analyze that type of information. And, I've been in a situation where people will say, well, they're saying, well, they should be getting this. Why are they not getting this? I mean, how much time do you spend investing in an idea versus, particularly when you look at that data, right? Like, this is lagging. We invested so much time into this, but when do you give up on it? And when do you just kind of like, continue to push it forward? There got to be a point where you're like, this is not working, or, hey, we're making the right move here. Is there any kind of, and it's a convoluted question, but.
Yeah, but your point is accurate. I mean, what is really critical is that you determine what items are your winners, what decisions you made that work. But equally as important is to understand what didn't work. Yeah. Why does this item not sell well? And does it not sell well because, and then you've got the data say, all right, do our guests not like it? Does it not belong on our menu? Does it not fit our brand? Then making the call of, hey, let's take it off the menu, or let's adjust it and try it again. And then if the data doesn't change in 120 days, let's take it off then.
Yeah. Right. You got to give yourself some sort of timeline. There's going to be some way to measure that success.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about growth for a second. Everybody, the path to growth, franchising, but obviously the franchisee selection and running that whole process is not easy. How do you filter for people who you feel are I think you've used these words before, builders and not just investors?
Yeah. The culture is critical. The passion for the brand is critical. So our process now, I'm going to use the same ideals that I believe worked at Freddy's, which is you got to have the money to be able to do what you say you're going to do. You've got to have a territory that both parties agree on. Third, operational expertise or the ability to hire it. And more importantly to that would be to have somebody who's an operating partner as your leader. If you're not going to be the one running it, if you're just an investor. And then fourth and most important is the no jerk rule. Life's too short to deal with people that you don't want to deal with.
Yeah.
And you've got to make sure you've got the right person with the right personality, the right passion, the right drive, all the components of, would you go out and have a beer or a glass of wine with this person? And if you wouldn't, that's not a good decision.
I've heard so many guys say that on the, in reference to team building. Like, I have to actually genuinely like you. I think they've said like, I want to go have a beer. If I don't want to have a beer with you after this, then something's probably not right.
Exactly
my spidey sense is going off. But that's not always easy to do, right? Some people are trying to sell themselves. I mean, that process, they submit an online application, they come for discovery day, they talk to them, you meet them. I mean, how much more can really go into it? I mean, how much time do you spend on that?
A lot. I mean, it's a dinner the night before, have a couple cocktails, loosen up, get to know someone, and then a full day of understanding the support that we're going to give a franchisee. And in that period of time, you can learn a lot.
Yeah.
And I still remember times with Randy Simon with Freddy's walking down the hall after meeting with someone, and we both looked at each other and said, no way. And they had the bags of money. That wasn't the issue, but that's not what is critical. are, at the end of the day, it should just say protector of the brand. We're here to make the brand work well, and that's going to take the right execution, the right construction, the right hospitality, and the right food. But it
Yeah.
takes the right person as a franchisee to be able to execute those components.
Yeah. Yeah, agree. I mean, the dinner thing is a classic, right? You know, if they snap at the waiter, you can pick up on their dynamic. You know,
Oh,
you
yeah.
can really see a lot how somebody interacts in there. I agree with that. And obviously, if you get a couple drinks in them too, that if that's their thing, that a little bit of truth serum doesn't hurt every once in a while either.
Well, Kyle,
Uh,
you said, if someone doesn't treat a server nice at a restaurant, I mean, you should just get up and leave then and pay the bill and head home.
yeah,
It, that's a critical component on, is this really a good person?
yeah. Clearly not, in my opinion. You know, even there's somebody who even takes a step further that they can tell, like, if you go to like a QSR even, you know, you're standing in line, you're waiting, you're there, you roughly know what's on the menu. You're not going to be surprised really by anything, right? But if they go up to the counter and they're like, they're really making, you know, no general concern for the people behind them, the person standing in front of them, you know, people waiting in drive-through, just kind of, you know, one of these things, that's somebody who's probably not an ideal candidate either. I've heard that
So,
story
Kyle,
before.
am I sure? I think I'm reading this right. You don't like people that are in it just for themselves. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's
Okay.
yeah.
In a nutshell,
Yeah.
just summarize the whole call. We got it.
Yeah, that's it. So now you have mentioned being fanatical about unit economics. Obviously, real estate's a big one when it comes to that. You know, our clients go through basically an approval process that goes through their sales to investment ratio, their IRR, their payback period, and of course their rent factor. Other than that, are there any sort of one line item things that you can think about when it comes to managing those unit economics that sometimes founders just shockingly overlook?
So I'm a huge real estate fan. Let's start with that. And I am not a lawyer, so let's make sure we understand that. But I'm a big believer that if you can afford, look, you're going to make 7 to 8% in today's world on real estate. And what's wrong with that long term, like an annuity? I love it. If you have the financial wherewithal to do real estate and operations and do both of them, do them both. If you only have enough money to do one, it's a higher return typically, hopefully, in the restaurant, right?
Mhm.
But the stability of owning the real estate long term, I think it does work. And that would be always be my recommendation, to have a real estate company that is separate with separate ownership. But I do believe the real estate component is a critical component to
Mhm.
win big. You can win with just restaurants. You can win big with real estate and restaurants.
Yeah. Now, do you have any particular data points or KPIs that you look at when you're picking a new market when it comes to real estate? Like, what are the determining factors? Like, hey, you know what? This is a market for Mokas Coffee, or this was a market for Freddy's.
Yeah. So, with Freddy's, we actually had Wichita State University, Stan Longoffer, who is a real estate professor who just retired, helped build a custom database for us to determine these are the components that work in our more successful Freddy's, and work with that for a lot of years. And the next component is just saying, all right, am I going to be in the real estate business or not? Do I
Mhm.
want to be in that? Can I handle it or not? But, I think there's a lot of programs out there that a lot of people use. Placer is one we use now, a Placer AI,
Mhm.
but nothing beats feet on the street.
Yeah.
I'm still a believer with all the data that you want to stay out there, a Tuesday, Wednesday lunch and dinner, a Saturday, Sunday lunch and dinner, sit in your car. Number of times I've sat there
You say
and
clicker?
with a clicker and count the cars going by, or even with the current Freddy's, counted how well we did in drive-through. It's important. And even with Mocha's, same thing. Our office at Mocha's in Wichita is a telescope distance away from our location. So we can watch the cars go through. It's great, but there's nothing that beats feet on the street.
Yeah.
Got to have that good. There's still, with all the data available, you still have to have that good gut feel for, is this the right location?
Yeah. You know, the Placers of the world, the Buxtons, the any one of these platforms, I
Yep.
always say they're equally good at showing you where not to go. It almost works backwards. And maybe that's just the way my mind works. But, I had a conversation with a group yesterday and they were like, we need to see the Placer. We need to see the Placer. And I said, you gotta tell me a little bit more than that, because the Placer is gigantic. So what exactly are you looking for? We can get the data from anywhere. We can narrow it down. But just saying you need a Placer report, it just sounds like you're not really clear on what you're asking me for.
I agree. And I think your comment on it's more important for those companies to tell you where not to go is what it's all about. That's what's important. The winners, it's easy to talk about the winners.
Yep.
Your goal is to eliminate the losers.
Yep.
When you're picking real estate.
For sure. Now, obviously, continuing to go back to the Freddy stuff, I guess all the lessons that you've learned there, Are you trying to apply, I imagine, most of that to Mocha? But let's talk about the proudest moments, the things that you can kind of put front and center in front of the Mocha group. Say, hey, look, this is what we did and it worked. Boom, here it is. Anything you can share there?
Well, we've changed the technology on how we cook food.
Yeah.
And did a combination of new technology ovens, which are give you absolute the consistency and product. And that's been a big move for us. We also pulled out the fryer, which was interesting. And we have hash browns. They cook great in the speed ovens. And we only had 2 items going in the fryer. And a fryer from a management standpoint, from filtering and cleaning and all the components. And it's just not the most fun piece of equipment to work with, critical in a lot of operations. And we were able to eliminate that. We think that was a big win.
Now, just practically speaking, for any franchisor or somebody who's thinking about franchising their concept, and they're looking to implement sort of like a blueprint like yours. They have 5 units. They want to scale. They're opening up their notebook. They're ready to listen to you. Okay, Scott, tell me, where do I start? What do I not outsource? How do I build culture? Like, what are the things they should be focused on?
I'm a big believer that the main thing is keep the main thing the main thing. Hire the expertise you need in certain areas, whether it's PR, helping generate leads. That's things that restaurant companies don't do that often. And so to be able to hire that, get the right people that are great and that you want to work with. And I think that's a big win, a great way to go.
What else? So what would you say? I think, I don't know if this is your phrase or not, but like finding a founder zone, like where would you be spending the bulk of your time? Like day one, I'm opening up, I'm going to do this. What am I spending the most of my time on?
If I ever write a book, and one time I actually put the chapters on, I wrote them down, but it's going to be called The Power of Consistency. When somebody goes to a Mokas or Freddy's, you want the same experience, whether you're in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, or Wichita, Kansas.
Right.
And being able to set up the systems, processes, the recipes, the procedures, so that the guest feels the same experience, high level of hospitality, great quality food in a clean environment. That's what makes you win. And that's what brings sales higher, and it raises the whole brand.
Yeah. Consistency I think would apply to also the other aspects of the business, like the franchisees reach out, the branding and all that stuff. I know I've had some other folks on here and in other aspects of this business say, it's all in the boring work. Consistency in the boring work is kind of what gets it done. Would you agree with something like that?
I do. And it's important to be able to get the guest perspective and understand what your guest has experienced. One term I use a lot is food credibility. At Freddy's and at Mokas,
I like that.
Strategically made decisions on how the cook's line would be set up. We want our guests to see some things that we're doing.
Yeah.
At Freddy's, there's not a lot of sexiness in a fryer. We don't need them to see the fryer, but to see the process of cooking burgers is pretty cool.
Yeah, right.
And so in Mokas, same thing, to see the sandwiches being grilled, eggs cooked fresh. All we bring in Mokas is fresh eggs, no frozen eggs. So we're proud of that. We want to show that off.
Yeah.
And I think that's an important component when you're everything. So being true to the brand, understand who you are and execute at that level and make decisions that are based on what your brand is and how you've defined it.
Yeah. The fresh eggs is a big thing. I think that's a huge thing. I mean, particularly, nowadays when it's almost expected to not be, right? So that's a key component. Sounds like not a huge deal. Sounds like it should be fresh eggs, but I think that would imagine that's a big component.
So the real cool thing in our Salina location, so Jason has farming also. A lot of the eggs in Salina come from Jason's farm. It's really pretty cool. It doesn't get fresher than that.
No, right. Yeah. No middleman is fantastic. That's the goal. Now you have come to the point in the show now where it's going to be quick fire questions. So kind of just off the top of your head, you don't have to give an explanation. Just give me the one word or one sentence that will really kind of answer the question without going too deep. So I want to get through a couple of them. So maybe we'll get through all 5.
Let's roll.
Ready when you are. You ready? Okay.
Indeed.
One leadership habit that has never failed you.
Partnership. Your partners with your team members and with your guests to understand their perspective.
Love that. Most overrated restaurant metric.
I'm going to say, this is going to be unusual, pricing. The value component in a restaurant is critical and you've got to focus on it. And pricing too low is a problem. Pricing too high is a problem.
I agree with that. That's great. Favorite Freddy's LTO ever?
Well, I like spicy. Our jalapeno burger, which ended up going on the menu full time, which has happened very rarely, is still one of my favorites.
Awesome. What's one coffee brand that you secretly admire? No longer will be a secret.
Well, Dunkin' actually. And I think their product is consistent, executes well. Their technology is good. They do a great job. they've
Dunkin'.
made some changes over the years with their food,
Yeah.
different to ease of execution. That
And they
can be
dropped,
debated.
yeah. I mean, it was Dunkin' Donuts growing up for me. Now it's just Dunkin', right? So there's that part too.
Love it.
One book or habit that you would recommend to every new or wannabe franchisor?
I still have this book from Dr. Dennis Waitley called The Double Win. It's not in print.
That's the
You
one.
have to find it on eBay. And to me, both parties need to win. And the franchisee needs to understand that. And just as importantly, the franchisor needs to understand the balance in winning and losing.
Yeah.
If you've got a real loser, you've got a big winner, somebody didn't win.
Right.
And I've always been a believer that you all work together to get to a common goal, collaborate and make it work and let both parties win long term.
Yeah. And a big part of that to me, just as an aside, I feel like is that feedback loop from the franchisor and the franchisees, because it's like a very ongoing thing. I feel like too much from the franchisor without that feedback can almost be like a death knell, so to speak. But
well, at Freddy, some of our best ideas came from franchisees.
right. Yeah.
And understanding the value in that. These are wonderful people who are talented and great industry leaders. And to not use that resource is a mistake.
Yeah, I agree. I just had somebody say, we had the CEO of Jeremiah's Italian Ice on here, and their guests were so frustrated that they could get this. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but they do like a Italian ice with a custard mixed in. But every time they wanted a cake, they had to go to Carvel or to Dairy Queen or to one of these other places. So he came in and was like, why don't we figure out this whole cake thing? And then that's been an initiative that came directly from their guests. That's a great point.
Love it.
All right, I'm a real estate guy. I would love to talk to you about our real estate. Last section here is called the real estate check-in. So you've picked hundreds of sites, which means you've seen hundreds of thousands of sites.
Well, a little exaggeration there, but yes.
Okay, how many? Thousands of sites, right? So what's your real estate philosophy? How do you continue? How do you like avoid that grow at all costs syndrome? So love to hear more about that.
Well, I think the most important thing is the comment you just said, grow at all costs can't be the goal. The goal has to be to grow with great locations and use every trick in the book, every resource to get the best location. It's amazing the data we get and to put the time in and don't go too fast.
Yeah.
I would never push someone to do a location that we didn't think was going to be great.
Right.
Look, you're not going to win all the time. You're going to have some losers. That's just part of it. But you've got to go into it with both eyes open, understanding that you're not, I guess my key thing would be, don't talk yourself into a location. I've seen people do that because they're trying to meet their quota or whatever. Not a good program.
Yeah.
Get a great location, make sure the data supports it, make sure a few people have eyes on the property and spend the time with feet on the street to understand the quality of the location.
Yeah. I mean, that part can be difficult because so many franchisees, they're juiced up about the brand. In their mind, they have an idea where they want to go, and they don't realize the process can take time, right? And if you're doing it, particularly if you're doing it properly, right? I mean, every once in a while, something falls in your lap. But managing, I think, those expectations, I would say is one of the hardest parts of my job.
I get it.
Yeah.
And real estate is a critical long-term component to franchising if it can be part of your portfolio.
Yeah.
Look, we sold Freddy's. We still own a lot of real estate and I love it. And my kids will love it even more, but it's a great thing to have. The main in Maine is main in Maine and always will be.
That's great. And what about your thoughts on visibility, traffic, accessibility? Are those your top three, would you say, for both these brands?
I think so. The middle of the road type thing doesn't work as well. You want the corners, but being able to get in and out. Now with coffee, we have the going to work side is important.
Oh yeah.
And
major.
Because you don't want someone to have to cross the street twice to get their coffee and breakfast sandwich and then cross the street again to keep going to work.
Yeah.
So that's an important component too.
I spoke to somebody who was a CEO of a coffee brand, and as part of their market research, when they were checking out new markets, they would actually, instead of staying in a hotel, they wanted to stay in an Airbnb, like somebody's house or an apartment, because they wanted to feel what it was like where people were going to get coffee. How do I get out of this neighborhood? This is a new development area. What is that going to look like? So yeah, I think that's a major point too. The AM PM side of the road is for sure a thing.
Absolutely.
And you guys have a super small footprint. So I know a lot of brands are chasing that small footprint now. So I'm sure landlords are excited to hear about that.
They are. And the ease of drive-through. I was recently at some new drive-thrus that are in which I'd like to meet the engineer who designed it in a back alley. It just wasn't right. Right.
Yeah.
And you've got to make it easy for your guests. But, there's so much competition out there. We've got to execute with food quality and our drink quality, our speed, our total brand, but we can't do things that make it a little hard for the guest every day. that pretty soon they'll find another place to visit.
That's it. A lot of competition. Well, that's it. That's it for the show. Scott, thank you so much for all the insight, stepping away from your family on vacation. And if you have any information you want to share about Mokas, we're going to put in the show notes. But anything you want to say here, I'd be happy to end with that.
Well, we're excited to get Mokas growing. It is a very unique brand that we're so passionate about doing things the right way, erring on the side of the franchisee so our franchisees can absolutely win. And we think that's what it's all about. It'll be great to be sitting here 5 years and 10 years from now where someone's opening up their 9th Mokas and being very successful. That's a true barometer for winning.
Awesome. So guys, if you are looking to get into the coffee business, if you're looking to get into franchising, you want a real veteran on your side here, I can't imagine anybody better to kind of help guide the process. Mokas, all the information on Mokas and their franchising will be in the show notes. Reach out to them there. And Scott, I look forward to staying in touch. Enjoy the rest of your summer. And thank you again for your time.
Greatly appreciate it. Thank you.